administration is weighing whether to suspend habeas corpus for immigrants here illegally. It's a constitutional right that lets people challenge unlawful detention. Top advisor Stephen Miller argues the migrant surge amounts to an invasion, one of the rare conditions under which suspension is actually allowed. We spoke with Wayne State distinguished law professor Jonathan Weinberg about what this could mean. It was a very close decision, a 5-4 decision by the Supreme Court in Trump versus JGG, in which the Supreme Court decided it was okay to deport some Venezuelan immigrants who were in the country illegally, although there were some limitations to allow for some sort of habeas corpus relief. And there are those who say, well, the Supreme Court is basically setting a new precedent with regard to habeas corpus. Do you think this completely reworks the framework of habeas corpus in this country when it relates to undocumented immigrants, particularly that case and that decision?
No, it doesn't. And there are two cases, Supreme Court cases, to be aware of here. One of them is the JGG case. And in the JGG case, the court said that claims like these have to be brought as habeas corpus cases and can't be brought as that case was, as an Administrative Procedure Act case, which is an inside baseball legal, what statute are you suing under thing. And it said, go back and bring habeas corpus actions, and that's what people have been doing. But then, in the Abrego-Garcia case, the Supreme Court said unanimously that the government can't spirit people out of the country and just arrest them and send them to El Salvador without their having the opportunity to file for habeas corpus, without their having the opportunity to go before a court and at the very least say, look, I'm not who they say I am.
If the executive is basically making this argument that an influx of immigrants does constitute an invasion, and that is akin to parallel enough in the confines of the law to be to constitute a war or put us in the state of wartime, couldn't they make a legal cogent argument that they have this authority, even if it is limited?
Well, so, no, I'm a lawyer. And as a lawyer, I know lawyers can make all sorts of arguments. But if the administration argues that we're in a state of invasion, number one, I think the Supreme Court will reject that argument. And number two, that still doesn't get around the fact that only Congress can suspend the writ. The Supreme Court said that in the middle of the Civil War. The Supreme Court said, yeah, this is the Civil War. It's plainly rebellion. We plainly are in the middle of a war, but that doesn't change the fact that only Congress can suspend the writ.
Vetus v. Davis, 2001 case that basically affirms even if you are a non-citizen within the confines of the United States, our borders here, so even if you're in the country illegally, that you are afforded Fifth Amendment protections of due process. Does it allow or does it give additional protections for illegal immigrants to say that, look, I should be given the same rights as any citizen who's here?
Well, so the Supreme Court said in that case and in a bunch of other cases that everybody in the U.S. has due process rights, that everybody has the protection that their life, their liberty, their property can't be taken away from them without due process of law. And that's true whether they're citizens, that's not true whether they're non-citizens, that's true whether they're here legally, that's true whether they're here illegally. The end run that the administration is suggesting around this is that, well, that's not true if habeas corpus is suspended. If habeas corpus is suspended, all bets are off, and people never get the opportunity to go to court to claim their due process rights. But because if habeas corpus is suspended, all bets are off, that's exactly why the Constitution makes it so hard to suspend habeas corpus. That's why the Constitution says the president can't just do it on his own. That's why the Constitution says nobody can do it unless the public safety requires it, because we're in a state of actual rebellion or invasion. And that means real invasion, not, metaphorical invasion or something that sort of, you might imagine is sort of like an invasion if you look at it sideways. That means an actual invasion.
And many experts think if the White House walks down this path, they'll face significant legal challenges.